Show with Paul Daner, Mark Salafo. Kick off the weekend, all right. It's the Growler Friday Show. It's Dey Light.
All right, welcome to Dey Light. It is not Friday, but that's okay, Mark, because it's the start of the weekend. One of the most anticipated, some might say over-discussed weekends of the year, draft weekend. So it's Wednesday, but it kind of feels like a Friday because the fun starts tomorrow with the draft. What is up?
I'm excited. It feels like we're on the top of the roller coaster, about to start having some real fun. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Paul and I are going to do 47 more mock drafts, so you guys can adjust your own spreadsheets that you've been maintaining at home. I do got to say, you did the big mega mock show on Tuesday that came out, right? So that was, I loved it. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it. It was fun to me that you kind of set up this big thought experiment. You're like, okay, guys, here's what we're going to do. Here are the players that are available. And they just immediately ignored that. Just, okay, well, I'm going to pick this other guy because I don't think any of these other ones are available. And it's like, no, that's not where they are available.
They are available. They're all there. Yeah, it's meant to discuss the possibilities. That's okay. I loved it. It's one of my favorite things we do because it is a good chance. I think it is. Every year when I look back on it, I say the most realistic conversation that was had about the Bengals early rounds happened in that. I felt that way the last couple of years, and I feel like that's the way we're going to look at it again when we look back at the one we did, thanks to James Rapine, Jeff Hobson, of course. Jay was on with me for doing that show on Monday. It was a blast, but we have so many more fun things on deck for you. Specifically, let's talk about it. Live show is here. Pumped about this. Of course, it's great for us to have our new partners, BetMGM, with us here. They are presenting all of our draft coverage this week as we blow through it. That includes the walkouts Thursday after the draft, Friday after the draft, Saturday night when Jay and I are absolutely on fumes and thinking about that big last beer. We're going to talk to you first, BetMGM, bringing all of that to you. And then live show next Tuesday, April 30th, 7 p.m. at BetMGM Sportsbook and Nation Kitchen and Bar at the Banks. Bengals college scouting director Mike Potts will be our guest. We will talk through all the picks. We talked to Potsy yesterday, and he was up doing the pre-draft press conference. He admits, look, nobody says anything in these. I'm not going to say anything here. I'm going to do my best to answer your questions, but this is all close to the vest. We're about to have the draft because we can have more detailed conversations about that next week. And I thought, what a great thing to say, Mike. I agree. We definitely should do that, and we will do that next Tuesday on the Growlers post-draft special, BetMGM Sportsbook and Nation Kitchen and Bar at the Banks. If you haven't been down there, it is awesome. Offers one-of-a-kind experience. It's got these standout features. You ready? 350 square foot video wall, 3 in-person wagering windows, 14 self-service wagering kiosks, a fully covered outdoor patio, seating, TVs, VIP lounge. And then you have access to all of Nation's delicious food. The burgers. Our great friend of the program, Lindsay Patterson, is a massive Nation corn dog fan. I will eat a corn dog with Lindsay Patterson happily. They are delicious. Nation just crushes it over there. It's a great combination in that building on the corner. Joe Nuxall Way and Second. It's like, what I like about it, if you're wondering where it is, you know where the Pete Rose statue is in front of GABP? Ironically, it's like Pete Rose is sliding right on in the sports book. He's sliding right towards the front door.
Because he heard about this show. Yeah, I love that he's sliding right into the sports book. It's just the natural gravitational pull.
Natural gravitational pull. It feels like it makes sense. It's kind of like when he has his own Hall of Fame next to the Hall of Fame down the street. It kind of has that same feel to it. But
yeah, there's a real wink going on with that. And but yeah, come to the live show. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a party. Best Bengals hang until the season starts. And I'm excited to hear Mike break down our picks, but it's also just going to be a good time to see more of our listeners. We love seeing them in person. You don't get to see them in person as much as I do. I did get to see a couple more at the Dayton Funny Bone. So shout out to Matt and Sam, I think. So they came up afterwards and said hi. So we love talking to our people in person. Come to the show. If you've enjoyed all the extra podcasts that Paul is doing, this is the best way to support it, is to come out to our live show.
Yeah. And we are gonna, and I'm gonna have I'm teasing this. I'm gonna have a little giveaway that I'm gonna do that's gonna be really fun, but it's on you. It's gonna be more homework for you. So that's gonna be coming on a little bit later. We'll get to that. But first, we've got a lot to talk about ourselves just to get into this, because it's the Q&A before the draft. Basically, you guys have draft questions. You've had a bunch, and so we should kind of hop right into some of these questions, I feel like, because there's a lot that people want to know that I don't know what we haven't covered yet. Honestly, I mean, I feel like we've covered, but you guys found more. We've got that to get to. Oh, by the way, great job on the homework. We're going to get to that later. You guys coming through with the Brown nicknames, with the baptism options for Bengals fans. There's a lot of good stuff that you guys are turning in. You guys are really, I like how we've turned as many segments as we can into other people doing the work for us. I think it's just cool.
This was always the show for the fans. This is their voice has to be heard. They send the emails to the growler podcast at gmail.com. We get into the questions. We've got some fun interactive segments with them. So we let them drive the bus, and we just are bystanders on it. We get to enjoy where it takes us. And we are in the interesting part of the draft, where you are either the fan that has done 30 mock drafts, you've read everything, you've imagined 10 different scenarios for the Bengals. Most of them you probably enjoy. There's one or two you probably hate. Or you're the flip side, where you're just more of a casual fan, that this is the time when you're parachuting into the draft coverage. You haven't looked at a mock draft yet. You don't follow college football extensively, so you're trying to familiarize yourself with who's going to be available for the Bengals. So I think that's a trickier spot to be in right now, because you can't listen to all the 30 podcasts you've done about it. And my advice to these people is just, there's so much data out there now, right? There's the different athletic testing and there's just so many metrics for people to judge these picks on. So if you're a casual, you just got to start talking about the intangibles. Just start saying things that are vague, that'll confuse other people. Just talk about how much you got to watch the tape of a guy. Be like, hey, I know what his scores are, but when you watch his tape, and then that'll make them think you've done a little bit of homework. And then talk about how they've got that dog in them. That's something you can't measure that. So you throw words around like that, and then you can kind of bluff your way through the process.
I love what it has become. And maybe some of these people haven't anger tweeted me about the slot corner pick in round 2 yet, which I don't think there's anybody left that hasn't taken a shot at me for predicting that, but we'll see.
I guess we'll have Sztanyo on later. Maybe he can take a shot at you too for that.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody, I mean, there's no one left. People did not like that pick. That's fine. We'll get into that. We'll get into that in a minute. But mock draft is up. Big board is up, which is kind of I ranked the first round options in sort of by the realistic ones, which is a little bit of a piggyback off of the mega mock the other day, but also have a universe of players for round 2, 10 in round 2, 10 in round 3, 10 on day 3 that are kind of, Bengals fits, whether it be the types, whether it be 30 visits, whether it be positions that they're going to be targeting at certain points due to things that we've heard or historical context there. So go check that out, and you can get into a bunch of that stuff there first. But first, let's hop in question 1. What do we got?
All right, our first question is from William. It is about the defense. It's a run pass boot. What series of events gets the Lou Anarumo defense into the top 10 in points per game allowed this season? Lou and company finding a position of strength to harness the athleticism of Dax Hill, the round 1 drafting of either Byron Murphy or Johnny Newton, or just having a healthy rotation of the defensive ends, Osai and Hubbard, and having a nice jump for Miles Murphy.
I like this question. I always support run passer boots, as you know, so that you can never go wrong. If you submit a run passer boot question, there's a pretty good chance at some point we're going to read it. It may be July, but we'll get there. Okay. We have a lot of backlogged questions that you guys have been sending in. This one, I think, is a clear run. The clear run is the drafting of Murphy or Newton. I mean, there is nothing that changes the face of a defense faster than a game-wrecking 3-technique interior pass rusher, whatever. And both of those guys would qualify. and you add them in, and you just think about how your rotation feels and how different it all feels if you have 3 guys that are kind of moving around in there. And that's Sheldon Rankins, who's a beast, and you just paid $13 million a year to. BJ Hill, who is as a rotational pass rusher, was fantastic. He was great when paired with Ogunjobi. Bringing his snaps down will make his efficiency much higher. I still think BJ Hill has tons of game left. And oh yeah, Byron Murphy or Johnny Newton. And then on passing downs, you're kicking Sam Hubbard inside and getting Miles Murphy and Trey Hendrickson coming off the edges. I mean, have fun. That changes everything. You don't have to cover as long. You're making these quarterbacks make rush decisions, and you're getting more interception, all those things. And you have finishers everywhere. That changes everything. And so I think that's the clear run. And pass, I sort of mentioned. I think the healthy defensive end to pass rush still is the next thing. You know, we talked to Sam Hubbard this week. He showed me a scar. Can you believe that it was the first operation Sam Hubbard has ever had in his life?
Yeah, that's crazy. How does an NFL player go that long through his football career with no operations at any point?
I've never heard of such a thing. I mean, and he's been like a big-time athlete in multiple sports, lacrosse, football, you name it, Ohio State. I think Ohio State, they just make you get surgery just because you have to. It's like
a requirement.
Part of the entrance. Yeah, like sorry, I know you're healthy, but we have to cut your back open. Like, that's just what happens when you play
It's
football.
just the deal we have with the team surgeon. He gets one operation per player. That's how his practice can stay in business here. So you pick the body part.
And he's almost to the end of a second NFL contract playing defensive line. And for the first time ever, he gets cut. And he very proudly showed us his ankle scar. And right across, up, down, up, vertical on the ankle, and learned about the deltoid tendon. Did you know that there's a deltoid in your ankle?
I did not. I'm trying to think, though, if you have a first scar and you're proud to show it off, what part of your body do you want it on? I feel like ankle is not the way to go.
No.
You don't be hiking up your pants to show the boys your cute ankle scar.
Hey, guys.
Look at here. Look at this little guy.
I got cut open. Dude, I was such a warrior. No, I don't know what the best
elbow
one
maybe?
would be. Elbow. Well, it's elbow. Like, what are you doing to hurt your elbow? I think I've got my first one. I have 2 back surgeries right down the back, lower back, straight. Is that cool?
That's worse than
or is that
ankle.
like showing off a tramp stamp?
Yeah. Hey, guys, come here. Let me show you my scar. Let me turn my scar.
Show you my lower back scar.
Pull my shirt off and come look at my lower back scar.
No, something across the chest, maybe. Like
chest might be good.
Yeah, like they had to rip me open and just bring me back to life. You can tell that story, I think.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
What were your back surgeries for? Reporting on football?
Yeah.
Too much time sitting in the press box.
Yeah, general lack of core causing disc issues. Yeah, multiple disc issues. It's not been super there, but we're through it now. Shout out.
I think I'll take the ankle.
Yeah, no, shout out to Dr. Anthony Guanciale. Hey. Who has crushed it with 2 back surgeries for me. Done very.
I mean, if he really crushed it, would you have needed the second? Wouldn't one have sufficed?
That's my fault. It's my fault. I didn't rehab all the way.
No, don't throw this on yourself. You throw this surgeon under the bus. Or maybe not, because you might need a third at some point.
That's my guy. I mean,
yeah.
Nobody has just one back surgery. No one has had a back problem. Okay, you have it your entire life. Back to the ankle. Okay.
So what are you doing out of this?
This is why we run long. So he shows us the scar of his ankle. I learned about the deltoid, and I don't think people realize. We've talked about it a lot. I think we talked about it a few episodes ago about how people are now recognizing how hurt Sam actually was. I mean, it was pretty extensive tightrope surgery down there, and as you get older, this is the kind of stuff that you do get worried about. And so I think that's a question. This is a great question because are you getting a fully healthy Sam Hubbard? But I also believe that, I talked to Miles Murphy on Monday, and he talked a lot about his offseason has really been based on getting just as technically efficient from the left side as the right side and being interchangeable there because he's not done as much over there where Hubbard plays. And I think the recognition is that there's just going to be a lot more of Miles Murphy playing over there. and potentially kicking Sam Hubbard inside or rotating to keep everybody fresher. That includes Sam, who's going to be coming off this. That includes Murphy just needing more reps. That includes keeping Trey Hendrickson fresh for big third downs and closing games in the fourth quarter, because that's the type of games you're going to play. And that rotation is helped by Osai and Murphy, and you can't have enough of those guys. And I think they want to come in waves, which is something that Lou Anarumo's defense really did in 2021. The defensive line had depth. They came in rotations. I have loved, one of my favorite things about being on this beat so long is I can pull crazy stuff out from long ago. They used to have the Fisher-Price package in early Mike Zimmer days, which was in 2010, which is when they drafted Carlos Dunlap and Geno Atkins, and they weren't starters yet. They would just bring these kids off the bench fresh, like just angry dogs that have been in a cage for 2 quarters, and set them loose on 3rd and 9 and say, go get the passer. And young Geno Atkins and Carlos would just wreck it. I mean, they would just crush. And so Zimmer called it the Fisher-Price package because he just sent the kids in, let them go eat. And eventually they grew. But you need stuff like that, where you can have guys that just come in and they have very specific roles, and that keeps everybody fresh. So those two things are a great combo, run and pass. I'll boot Dax. I don't think that he is something they have to be great. I think he's a luxury right now that they're trying to figure out, but I don't, I think they've set everything else up to be just fine, even if he's not a major contributor before you start getting into injuries and stuff. He's there it's great to have that as a luxury depth piece in your secondary, but I don't think they need that.
Yeah, if you're talking about being a top 10 scoring defense too, like you need to get those guys in the middle of that defensive line, whether it's Murphy or Newton or whoever, because it's great to have a healthy Osai and Hubbard and Murphy, but they're not all three going to be out there at the same time rushing the quarterback. Whereas like if you've got Murphy and Newton out there, they're going to get a lot more chances to get after it with those other 2 defensive ends. Yep. Our next question is, what is the most realistic chance about Cincinnati hosting the NFL draft?
Yeah, I mean, since he's got to get their act together as a city, right? I mean, we got to get these hotels done. You got to get that. The infrastructure is the concern from the NFL standpoint, as far as I have ever concerned it. The Bengals have always had interest, like, for a long time. I remember my old partner Jim Ozarski, 7-8 years ago, talking to them about them being aggressively interested in hosting the draft. This was post All-Star game success, that went so well. And the NFL has kind of thumbed their nose up a little bit at Cincinnati as being a host. There's a lot of things at play there that you can speculate about, and I've heard many speculate about how the league feels about the Bengals franchise. But I think more than anything, the city needs to have better infrastructure. It's the same way we sit here and talk about the NCAA tournament. Okay, well, your facilities aren't up to par. You can't play at Heritage Bank Arena. You don't have enough hotel space to host how many people that come in for the draft. Is the contention from the NFL side of things that are controlling this. And they are moving them around. Detroit will have it this weekend. Here's my beef with the draft moving around. It should never, and I mean ever, go to a city that can or has recently hosted a Super Bowl before all the other cities are taken care of, because you only have so many premier events that you can give back to the fans that have teams, to the organizations that are part of what you're doing with the NFL. And the idea of, let's put it in LA where there's 2 Super Bowls and here comes another thing, or, and I get Vegas, right? They're new. So you're kind of like checking stuff off, but they have a Super Bowl and they get a draft. You're getting Detroit. They've had Super Bowls. They can have a Super Bowl. And now I think it needs to be all these places that have never been able to have anything. And do people want there to be draft in cold weather cities all the time? No. But I think that's something you can give. And so places like Cincinnati, like Pittsburgh, Cleveland had, you have Green Bay's getting one. All of these places, I would like to see all of the drafts cycle through the non-Super Bowl cities before we start talking about anything else. That would include Cincinnati, but I do think the infrastructure is part of the issue from the NFL side of things right now.
And I'm sure that the NFL is aware that they've got great spots for all the fans that would be coming into town. They could go to the BetMGM Sportsbook and in the Nation Kitchen and have a great time. But yeah, it's the rest of the infrastructure that's a little bit of an issue. And you're right, there's probably some specific feelings the NFL might have about Cincinnati. I could see a situation down the road where they're trying to debate between two cities and they flip a coin, and that's how Cincinnati loses out on the draft. That's always a possibility.
It's always, maybe that's what's happened. Maybe that they've been deciding between Cincinnati and one other city, and Cincinnati, it was Cincinnati and Detroit. And it's like, look, we got to do a coin flip. Sorry, tails again. Tough luck.
Yep. Oh, no. You guys have lost 62 consecutive coin flips. Better luck next year.
Didn't even know it was possible. The
Bengals have 10 draft picks as of now. Who knows if they'll package some of those together, trade up. But right now, there's going to be a lot of new faces coming to this team. Which current Bengals player should be most worried about losing his spot with this team?
Well, I mean, I think we kind of know who they are. Here's the thing. So when I did my mock draft that people love, it ended up being a lot of picks that are just very clearly replacing older current starters next year. So the list could be long. I just think that's going to be a lot of the direction in which they're going to go this weekend is going to be a lot of future looking. I mean, again, we've been talking about this for so long. I know that we're beating a dead horse. We have reached just say it again, but louder portion of the program here for those that haven't been around. But they don't have a ton of openings. They don't have a ton of spots they have to fill. They are filling spots that are going to be players that are heir apparents to current starters, quality depth that's waiting to go or that's in a competition to try to take over a spot. I mean, the best chance you have of a player coming in and being an opening day starter is slot receiver. That's the only thing that's really open. Even if they took Byron Murphy, he's not going to start right away, probably over BJ Hill and Sheldon Rankins or whatever they come up. Maybe he will, but more than likely they're all rotating. Right tackle, he's going to be in a battle. If you draft JC Latham, he's going to be in a battle with Trent Brown. More than likely, Trent Brown and Orlando Brown are your starting tackles. So there's a lot of positions that they are focused on that are 2025 starters and players that you hope can emerge as this year goes on or are there in case of injury. I mean, my mock, JC Latham, right, back up to Trent Brown, probably in a competition. Everyone's favorite Mike Sanderstrell pick from Michigan he is Mike Hilton. Like, how do you not watch? I maybe it's just because I watch all the Bengals game. I'm so closely connected to them. But when I watched every Michigan game that I watched him play Ohio State. I watched the championship games. I watched a few others of him in his cut-ups. He 5'9", 182, instinctive as hell, tenacious as hell, football player, man. Like, great player, slot corner, all the instincts you could ever want to see. Like, he is Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton is 30 and in the last year of his contract. I don't know how many of these guys have to come through and watch them go out the door until you know what comes next. So there's that. He's one. Charlie Jones is going to be in a competition with a slot receiver. We know that anyway. I mean, he should be feeling it anyway. He's got to be better. He knows that. He's got to rise above whoever shows up as competition with him. Defensive tackles are all going to be, BJ Hill. Byron Murphy is a BJ Hill replacement, right? Another guy in the last year of his contract. You're looking at, that's what it looks like next year. Okay. He's going to be the starter. BJ Hill would be gone. They'd be back filling again. All of these guys are the ones that are going to be feeling it. Those are the main positions. Ted Karras. They're going to be hunting interior offensive linemen. They're going to be looking for someone who could potentially develop into a starting center in 2025. I say this every time I talk about this. No one in this city wants to see Ted Karras go. I hope that they sign him to a 25-year contract. The bottom line is we've seen it a lot, and I think they're going to be looking for that. So those are the main ones. You just look at who's going to be gone next year. You look at who's older, and they try to keep cycling young that I think you're going to look at that are going to be, feeling it.
I think if we're talking your spot on this year's team, they've got 10 draft picks. Maybe Brad Robbins as a punter should be worried about his spot. There's always a possibility they use one of those 10, take like a 7th round punter for some competition. That could be a very real roster spot that's up for grabs.
Brad Robbins will have competition coming out of this draft weekend, whether it's undrafted free agent or a pick, or a veteran that's out there that they're waiting to see what happens after the draft that will come in. But yeah, he'll have competition too. All right. Now I want to make sure we take a minute here, and we got to thank our sponsors. Talk about BetMGM, the king of sports books. They're here in Cincinnati now. I don't know if you guys have been down there. The venue is epic. It's incredible. First class venue. It's designed to bring Cincinnati the ultimate gaming and dining experience. Our live show will be down there again. Our live show, post-draft special, Tuesday, April 30th, 7 p.m. at BetMGM Sportsbook and Nation Kitchen and Bar at the Banks. It's going to be awesome. I don't know if you guys know this, though, with BetMGM, if you sign up now and make a deposit and place your first wager on any game, if that bet loses, you'll get your original stake paid back in bonus bets up to $1,500. So if you're feeling good, just maybe just made a little coin on the side, take your $1,500, make one big bet, right? And once that if it wins, you're feeling great. If it loses, you get it back in all bonus bets that it's basically just free betting money that they just gave you. I mean, this is basically a 401k as far as I'm concerned, just investing in your own future. But that's available to you. All you got to do is download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android, or visit betmgm.com. Sign up and deposit at least $10 into your BetMGM Sportsbook account. Place your first wager and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. 21 plus and present in Ohio, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in partnership with MGM Northfield Park. Okay, I teased this earlier, Mark, that we're gonna do a little bit of a raffle for those of you that come down to the live show. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put this out there. I'm gonna personally put this $50 out there. If you can predict the Bengals' first round pick exactly, okay, who's it gonna be? I have JC Latham is on the board for me in my mock draft. I don't know who you're picking, who you think they're going to pick. Email it to, who are you saying, Mark?
First, I'm going to go on the record too here with this is, you talked about Byron Murphy before. I'm going to stay with the defense and go Johnny Newton with mine. Take a little bit more of a chance. Be that guy, because I know they had a visit with him. This draft's got offensive line and receiver, so I'm going to roll the dice. I'm going Newton.
You're going Newton. Okay, so if you can send it to the Growler Podcast at gmail.com. Send your answer. It's got to be in before 8 o'clock on Thursday when the draft starts. No sneaking in after Caleb Williams is picked. None of that. You got to get the bet in. Send it to us. Your guess. Send your guess. Everyone that guesses correctly, if you show up to the live show, there will be a raffle for $50 that can be used towards your bar bill, or here's the good one. You can use it towards a Bengals future bet. I need to oversee this. I can make sure you're doing it. You can either pick them in front of everybody, let everyone know what you're doing. You can pick them to make the playoffs with your money at -250. You can pick them to be the AFC North winner at +175. You can pick them to be the AFC winner at +750, or you can lean into the microphone. Look out at your adoring crowd that wants to be pandered to. And you can say, I'm picking the Bengals to win the Super Bowl at +1,400. If you win the raffle, that will be yours. You got to be present to win, though. So come on down to the special. You got to get it right, and then come on down, and we'll hook you up. We'll hook you up. So looking forward to that. We'll see if we get any winners. I'm curious how many people are gonna get it right.
See,
that's what I want. I want to see. I wonder how many people are going to do it.
It is. I mean, we kind of have a general idea of who's available, where the Bengals might lean, but this is a great raffle because we are still a newer podcast. You're not going to have like 10,000 contestants you got to compete with. First, you got to nail the pick. Then you got to be there in person. So this is a great raffle. You have a good, realistic shot of winning this. And I was trying to think, I'm not good at math. I was a journalism person. I went into the word business with stand-up comedy. What would you make at +1,400 on a $50 bet? I mean, that's like you're in the tens of thousands at that point, and you're like 70 grand maybe. Like that's a huge.
at a $50 bet. Oh man, you're gonna make me do math on the fly. I should have.
See, you're not a math guy either, huh?
I'm not. I wasn't prepared to do my math on the fly. I should have.
But that's a fun, like, hey, I've got a free $50 bet here. Let's do it. Let's do the Super Bowl. And that's some big cash that you would win from listening to this podcast and coming to the show.
Yeah, no doubt. It's big. Or you can just play it safe. Put down your minus 250, pocket a little bit more coin. I think you'll probably, you'll take in like what, 30 or 40 bucks there. That's nice too. I mean, you'll be weak, you'll be made fun of, but you can do it and play it safe if you're a conservative type of player. All right. So any game, I mean, like we said, it's going to be a blast down there. Come on down, and hopefully you've won and you'll have a chance to get in on that raffle. When you get down there, you'll have to come up and find Mark. I'll put Mark in charge of this. He'll be in charge.
I can handle the raffle. I'm in charge of the raffle.
Yep. We just decided you're in charge of the raffle. There it is.
I can handle that.
One more question. Then we'll get to our guy Eric Sztanyo.
All right, so our next question is about more about you, right? The draft day reporting process. This guy wants to know.
It needs to be more about me. Everything needs to be more about me. That's great.
That we're all here for it, man. He is curious to know what it's like for reporters during the first night of the draft. What's the vibe? What are you doing to fill time, especially like these recent drafts where there's hours before the Bengals make their first selection and Zach has the press conference? What is it like behind the scenes as a reporter during the NFL draft?
You know what's funny? One of the questions I get most often that are most, I don't blame people for not, nobody else, it's a very small group of us that are ever down there on draft weekend, is I get a lot of, are you going to Detroit? Are you going to wherever the draft is? Are you going to Kansas City? Are you going to wherever the draft is being held? And like, no, I would never do that, because the Bengals, everyone for the Bengals is there in the building in their draft room. Like you see these cameras in all the draft rooms now. So you know that, but they set it up to hook the media up as quickly as possible. So they will make a pick up in the draft room. We are down in it. There's a media room that's right near the locker room that we're all there. We all have cubicles and TVs on, and we're all just hanging out, watching, just like you are. We're just hanging out, watching the draft like y'all are. But the moment the Bengals make a pick, they send Zach Taylor and the coordinator for that position down to the press conference room. Often, because they pick it way earlier than TV shows it, they're almost down there waiting on us in the press conference room when we come down there from having watched the pick. A lot of us will just watch on a TV in the press conference room and just be waiting for them. And so once they pick it, we start tapping and filing all the genius words that you see come out onto whether it's X or wherever, any of your social platforms, and start writing whatever we have to write. And then they will sit down and we'll do a quick 10, 15 minutes about the pick. And then we will walk back to the media room, and then they'll put the player on the phone with us. So we'll do a conference call with the player right after that. So the player basically is still, it's great. We get people that have been listeners to podcasts for a long time know how much I love playing some of the phone calls that we do with these guys, because they are fresh off their dream happening and they're at a party. It's always some kind of shenanigans. The time where they couldn't find Mark Walton, which is one of my favorite phone calls of all time. It was just one of his buddies freaking out at the party, yelling, Mark, the Bengals are on the phone, Mark. Like, just try. And we got to listen to the whole thing. We're all recording it. Maybe there's a bit of precursor to what Mark Walton's issues would be. But that said, we get them on the phone. It's always a fun phone call with those guys. And then we write off everything that they've said and get stuff for you guys to have. That happens with every pick. So day 3, not fun. Because you are just like, now if there's a couple together, like what will probably happen at the end of the 3rd round, they will do 80, they'll do 97, and then come down after 97 and talk to us and get the guys on the phone rather than try to squeezing them in because the picks are so close. But they try to do that in spots, but it's a lot of up and down, and we go back to the press room and back to writing and and so you're just constantly moving. It's a lot of conversations with everybody, but there's a lot of us just hanging out, BSing. It's the most time I spend with my good friends on this beat all year is these 3 days. And I do enjoy that part of it, but they're long days.
Yeah, that's a different kind of routine for you guys from what you're used to, covering games, covering camp, whatever. What's the food situation like down there? I know the Bengals get knocked for having that F- food down there. Do you guys have to just bring your own sack lunches and eat some peanut butter and jellies in between
They
kicks
feed
and
us.
stuff.
They do. This is the 3 days a year that they actually do feed us, and I will never F- that food.
So yeah, it's not that bad.
Honestly, they could give me anything, and I would be like, definitely D. It was food, and I didn't have to go get it. I didn't have to bring something or think about it. I could just go eat. But legitimately, it's good. Like I've never had a problem. I've always been excited to eat whatever they've had. They got stations. They got different type of stuff for everybody. I'm on board. Food's good. This is the one time a year that we actually get some food.
I like that you hyped up the food, then immediately walked it back with, I would like anything, any kind of edible food you give me.
I'm saying I would like anything. I wouldn't F- anything that they actually gave me. That said, this is actually good food. If I was just in a trying to get fed for free experience, I would still give it at least a B and probably an A-.
Good. I like to hear the high marks.
But again, my standards are not as high as millionaire NFL football players. So that being said, I'm sorry. They're used to eating like they looking for the precinct to put a drive-through in, at this point, probably.
Yeah,
so,
the press box food is not
yeah,
quite on
not
the same
quite,
level.
not quite, living on the same on the same levels there. All right. On that note, let's do our big shift and let's bring in our good friend, our great partner. That is our guy, Eric Sztanyo from Keller Williams Realty. What's up, Eric?
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
Doing great. Good to have you back. For those that missed our show on Friday, your grand debut, excellent debut, by the way.
Wow, thank you.
Eric is our new partner here, and we're doing this segment once a week on Dey Light. If you haven't go over to the YouTube channel at Team Sztanyo. That's SZTANYO. Go over there now. It's honestly the competition. I still don't like it. My goal is to try to catch you because you have so many more subscribers than we do right now. But all the content over there is fantastic. If you're thinking about buying a home, if you're thinking about moving to Cincinnati, if you just want to know about real estate in general in this area, there's a million awesome videos kind of helping you know everything that's going on over there. So get over there and check out a guy who is, I'm going to brag on you here, back-to-back years of being the #1 team for production in the Keller Williams Advisors office. And here he is for you. He is for you to talk. What's going on?
For the people. Hey, it's great to see you.
You are for the people.
For the people. And I've got a question for you for the people. Okay.
Okay, let's hear it.
So my question this week, yes, we're talking during the draft. My question leads a little bit more to you personally, again, Paul, because we all need to know more about Paul.
I love it. Yeah, let's make this more. In fact, like we should just get rid of Bengals talk and just only talk about my social life and what I ate for dinner last night.
How many surgeries you've had?
My surgeries and my thoughts on the Middle East. I mean, I figure we could just kind of touch on everything.
You could easily get 3 to 4 more shows a week out of that content. Right? Easy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here's a question. You've done all this work. I know this is a busy time of year for you. Draft prep and interviews and mock drafts and 14-part series on T. Higgins and
hey, there were only 4. There were only 4
so far.
So far, that's right. There's still plenty more to come. We got the before, we got the after. I can Star Wars this thing big time.
Oh yeah, prequels and sequels. I'm waiting for that. Okay, so it's extremely busy. You're working really hard. You're going to have the 3 days of draft, which sounds kind of fun at the stadium, but there's a lot of work. You got the walkouts. You've talked in previous years about the best beer of the year.
Yes.
And I think it's graduated now. Oh my gosh. Did I freeze? My internet's
froze, but I can hear you. Keep going.
All right. Keep going. I think it's graduated to the best drink of the year. So my question is, what does that look like? Is that like, you've done all this work and you just kind of go off by yourself for a little bit and have your own little private Paul Dehner with a drink time? Or are you going out with the scribes to maybe a local establishment down at the Banks? Is it a group thing? What is the drink? Is it a beer? Is it bourbon? Is it a double? Is it a triple?
This is a good question. This is a good question. This has graduated over the years. It used to be best beer of the year. And then I realized it needed to be far more intense. And it's the one time that I really like focus on sitting down wherever I'm at and say, what is the top shelf bourbon that you have? Top shelf bourbon, 1 giant ice cube, sit it down right in front of me. And that's what it is. So wherever we're at, Now, the problem is if you're like, if we were to go to some place that's maybe not as nice as, say, like Nation and BetMGM down there, like they might not have as many nice things. And so they do. If I'm sitting there, I'm looking at their top shelf stuff at Nation, and I'm like, let's go, give me the goods, and I'm good. But I'll take whatever the best thing is that they actually have. Best bourbon, one giant ice cube, boom, that's what it is. And it's out with the Scribe. We all go. Saturday night is one of our like awesome go out afterwards. We kind of blow off steam and all hang out in one spot. So that's it.
I believe that doing hard things, deserves proper celebration. So I love that answer. If you have 2 of those, or maybe 3, and the Bengals draft Murphy and Roman Wilson, are you going to go ahead and pick the Bengals to win the Super Bowl again?
Oh, wow. No, I'm never doing that again. There's no personal glory. And that is what matters. Like, make no mistake. My rooting interest this weekend is for as many of the things that I said would happen to happen. I care about nothing else other than that. I want it to go the way that I think it's going to go, that I feel like it's going to go. And that's all I care about. So that would be a big success for me. That would make me quite happy. I might just have extra drinks, but I don't think that would result in me picking them to win the Super Bowl again, because I'm never doing that to the end of time.
Eric, we've got a question for you now. I mean, everybody knows a realtor in their personal life that's a friend of a friend, or somebody they knew from high school who is a realtor, somebody that flamed out of an MLM, or some other person that just can afford nice headshots, and then they declare themselves a realtor. If you are looking into buying or selling a house, how do you separate somebody who's actually good at what they do versus somebody that just has the fancy headshots?
Great question. Thank you for asking. Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, and shamelessly, I would probably say they have to be a Bengals fan, and maybe
fan of the show.
Maybe bonus points if they happen to be on your favorite Bengals podcast. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Maybe
no question.
Yeah, if they're, I mean, like you said, everyone knows a family or friend, but if they've done 1, 2, 5, 10 deals a year, maybe, excuse me, maybe their skills aren't that sharp. They're not in the game a whole lot, and so you may want to go with them because they're a family or friend, but also things go wrong all the time in real estate deals. And if someone's not on top of their game, it might not be that fun to have a family or friend be your agent. But, the answer is, competence matters, experience matters, the numbers of deals that somebody has done matters, knowing the market, knowing your numbers, having negotiating skills. I mean, check out the reviews. Like all the reviews are out there. So go read them. Go read the Google reviews. Be like, do I want to work with someone? Being with someone that you actually enjoy, because it's a long process. It's a stressful process. Like if you have a first meeting with them, you're like, I don't really like them. They're going to be your guide throughout maybe one of the most stressful experiences in your life. And so that you want to be with someone that you kind of like and can communicate well. They're Keller. So my broker is Keller Williams. They actually have this personality assessment. It's kind of like when you take it, it's like taking a mini ACT test. It's very hilarious, and you do it, but they map out all the results of this test to find out if you're a good agent or not. They kind of map, like, for example, there are certain personalities that are not a good fit for an agent. Like if you're in the middle of a negotiation, you want someone who doesn't mind getting, confronting people a little bit. You want someone who's maybe a little more intense, or has a good vocabulary, can communicate well, is responsive, is a problem solver. You don't want someone who's overly optimistic that everything is going to go right, because that doesn't happen all the time. So, it's really interesting. They have that test, and you can kind of map that out. I think it would be, I was thinking about this. I think it would be kind of hilarious if buyers or sellers of real estate chose their real estate agent. We're in draft season, but what if there was like a draft for real estate agents, and they, there was a combine, that they were training for. And it was like the 40-yard dash would be like, how fast can you get in your car and go show a house in Westchester, or that's
just speeding. That's just speeding. Right?
Well, there's efficiency. Like the 3-turn drill would be like, how efficient are you at drafting up a contract at 9:30 p.m. at night when you haven't seen your wife and kids all day? You know, those things matter. Like the bench press is like, are you going to be able to push your way through a difficult negotiation? You know, you could throw that out there. I think that'd be fun.
We've often talked about having writer combines before where, all of us, but the thing, because one thing I had one year where I had something was messed up with my foot. And I was like, oh my God, I got to walk around the combine and I'm going to be limping. Everybody's going to be staring at me. And I was like, I don't know if I can even do it. I'm even going to go. And it made me notice as I walked around the hallways with all the other 1,000 sports writers that are there covering, every sports writer has something wrong with them when they walk. Like we're all busted up. And it's like, it would be great to see, can any of us run at all? Like, is anybody here even capable of doing that? Like, we're all such a busted up group, but I know that you guys are not. I love that. I love the idea of I want to put you guys through the tests. That would be absolutely fantastic. Before you go, I want to make sure I tell everybody here, you need to be joining the Sztanyo Clanyo. That's what your people are called. It's your clan, the Sztanyo Clanyo. Make sure you're joining. Subscribe over YouTube at Team Sztanyo, SZTANYO. You can check them out there on Instagram at ESZTANYO, Sztanyo. And of course, if you're looking to buy or sell a home, email them directly, info@teamsztanyo.com, or go to their website, www.teamsztanyo.com to connect. All right, Eric, appreciate the time. Great to have you here. We'll put that RAS score that you have over there.
Yeah, the Realtor athletic score. Yeah, that's it.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a great draft.
Have a good one.
See you, Sztanyo.
All right. There goes the Sztanyo Clanyo. Great to have him on board. Another great partner for us here. And a reminder, just like with BetMGM, like if you like the show, if you like what we're doing, support the people that support us. We like to partner with people that are local, that are invested in local here in Cincinnati, and try to have us all kind of work together. And that's why he's a great partner for us, and as is BetMGM and everything they're doing in Nation Kitchen and Bar down there at the Banks. So great to have everybody here with us. All right.
Sztanyo he's a fan. He's one of us. He's a listener of this show. So, if you're
one of the earliest,
filter, he might be at the live show. You could talk him up there if you're buying or selling a house. Or
bring the Clanyo. Bring the Clanyo.
Let's go. Hopefully the Clanyo's in full force on.
All right, let's start powering through the rest of this stuff. We got more to get to. Let's go.
Got some homework to get to. First, we have another question from Megan. Why are mock drafts always 1.0 and 2.0? Is there a 3.2? How did this happen?
Yeah, this is a great question. And when I saw this, I had only one answer. And it's actually, it's almost too obvious of an answer. Nobody knows. Nobody knows how this happened, why this happened. No one has ever really used 2.3 or 4.1. Like, for some reason, somewhere, the first person, maybe it was Mel Kiper, the first person who did the first mock draft. This is like, imagine the caveman were like on the walls, like, take org 1 and chiseling it in. And then there's like another caveman behind him criticizing that.
You're going slot. You're taking the tiger over the lion.
No question that was happening. But he must have put 1.0 and didn't think twice about it. And now everyone has done dot something ever since. And it's always .0. You never see a dot whatever, except I found one. I Googled it and found one time someone did this. And so I think this is maybe the exception to the rule.
Is that person out of the business now, or they?
I don't know. It was someone at Bleacher Report.
Oof.
And it was this year at Bleacher Report when a trade happened. Or it was something about a trade. Something had happened between one mock draft and another mock draft where a trade had occurred. And he said, well, I can't just wait till my next mock draft to address this. I have to do it now. So I'm doing 2.2. The question begged, shouldn't it be 2.1? If you 2.0, wouldn't the next one be 2.1? We don't even know what we're doing with this dot system. I'm not sure how it all started, but all I know is you can see my mock draft 3.0, which is waiting on you whenever you get it. But I think I might. What it's going to take is one strong personality to stand up. I'm looking at you, Daniel Jeremiah, Dane Brugler, our guy. Stay. You know what? Here's mock draft 1. Period. No period. Nothing else. And then from there, I'm not gonna be part of this dot system. But I feel like that's kind of like trying to get America to go metric at this point. Like, we're just so deep.
Do you think a lettering system would annoy you even more? We're on mock draft L.
Boy, I have a war with the Super Bowl numerals that I have personally taken on that no one has acknowledged, but I don't want to use the Roman numerals anymore. So I just use the number Super Bowl 55.
Renegade.
56.
I like it.
I'm using the number. Once they did it with 50, I said, okay, good. Let's change now. Let's be done with the numerals. No one knows what's going on with the V's and the L's. It's getting into uncomfortable territory. It was fun when it was like 3 eyes. Okay, Super Bowl 3. Yeah, I get it. Roman numerals for some reason. There's no reason to do this. We are not Roman gladiators here. Okay, let's go with the number. That's what I want to see happen from this point forward. And I want mock drafts with no dots. I've got a lot of things that I'm worrying over right now.
If you can change the kickoffs, NFL, you can change the Roman numerals for the Super Bowl.
There's no question.
Get it together.
There's no
going into our homework that we gave our listeners. We had a lot of good suggestions come through this week for our Brown nicknames. Did you ever come up with one personally?
I did.
I had Brownstones. Brownstones was good.
You had Brownstones. I gave it some thought, and I'm always thinking Cincinnati tie. I'm always thinking how can we as a community come together on something like this? What about the Brown Bears? I mean, they're basically giant bears willing to wrestle anyone in front of them. You want to go into the bear pit, right? I feel like the offensive line, when they go out there, that could be the bear pit could be when they all sit in a line on the bench in order. You know how they do that when they're not on the field? Like that's the bear pit. And they hang out down there. They're brown bears. Go down to the Cincinnati Zoo. The zoo has got a new Bear Hill area they're working on. When they complete that, get Orlando and Trent out there. Let them hug the bears, right? Maybe not. Maybe we don't go that far. Let's get a trainer out there with someone who knows is going to keep them safe. Get them down in there. Let's get a cool photo shoot. The Brown Bears are here to wrestle all of your take on all comers. I think that's my guess. That's my
in this age of like AI and Photoshop and stuff. You're still not even like, let's just put a picture. You're like, let's get the actual stars of our offensive line in a cage with a bear. Yes. And it'll be a good photo op. And maybe it ends up and you've got to draft an offensive lineman higher because Trent Brown gets mauled by a bear, but it's worth it for the for the photo op.
Some say I'm overly optimistic about how things will go sometimes, but I don't think this is the case. I think it would work out just fine.
You know, sometimes when people get into animal enclosures at the Cincinnati Zoo, it doesn't always go the way that you think that it would. So maybe,
or sometimes it goes exactly how you think that it would.
Not the way that you would want it as a Bengals fan. We have some other nicknames here from Andy. How do you feel about the Brown Towers? He's looking for some kind of playoff, the Twin Towers, Lord of the Rings thing. He's trying to work in hobbits.
I think we're in a weird place. I think we're going to a weird place for trying to work in hobbits. I don't think we should be there.
I think Towers is just, and we get a lot of the Brown Tower stuff, but it Twin Towers, because there's 2 of them, they're giant, but I think the connotation to 9/11 is too bad there. You don't want that. How about this one from Kyle, the Lock Brown?
Lock Brown. Okay. All right.
It's better.
It's not lockdown, but like I think of lockdown drills, and that makes me kind of sad about.
Oh yeah, you just bummed me out now. Yeah,
sorry. So I'm gonna go against Lock Brown. I like the effort from Kyle, but that's just personal for me. I don't want to go there.
Well, if you're bummed about that, here's one that might also be a little bit of a bummer from Matt. This is incorporating both Brown tackles and Chase Brown in the backfield to complete the Brown-Muta triangle.
Ooh, okay. I like trying to incorporate Chase Brown. I mean, we're getting close enough that we could get to 3 Johnsons and a Big Willie again, which was the shirt that we referenced the other day that Dan Hurley wore in the photo that he sent me for when I did a podcast with him a few years ago. Proudly sporting that thing. We're starting to get there where we could end up there. Shout out Josh Sneed Cincy shirts. We know that you're thinking about it. We know you're working on it, and we'll get there. I like trying to incorporate Chase Brown. I don't know that I'm feeling Brown Muta coming off the tongue as easy as I want it to.
Maybe if Brown was a bigger part of the offense and he was like your star running back in every down, even then it's still a little confusing. I guess the other team gets lost in the Brown-Muta triangle, or they don't make it out alive, or it's a little bit, it's tough with that connotation. But I like the stab. I like where his head's at.
Yeah, I like where your head's at.
This one's from Jed. He's got two. The T&O Railroad, because of the Cincinnati trivia that the B&O, Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, does run through Cincinnati.
I don't mind that. I think it's a little too deep for people. Like when we're doing nicknames, we can't be complicated. Like people can't handle that. We're not going to go, we can't go highbrow or deep knowledge. I think it's a little too deep, but I like it. I just don't think it's going to catch on. And that's also a big part of this. You want something that is going to quickly catch with people.
Yeah, Brown County Brownsers, who are current champion, just rolls off the tongue. You don't have to say, here's the nickname, and now sit down for a history lesson for why it's clever. We can really get into this. And his other one was UPS. Why UPS? Because of their old tagline, what can Brown do for you? Again, too much explanation there for me with UPS. So we'll move on from that. Jeff has the Big Bad Brothers Brown in the spirit of Leroy Brown.
Yeah, no, I like that song. I do. Bad Leroy Brown, baddest man in the whole damn town. I love that. I'm here for it. Okay, I get where your head's at. Again, we're aging ourselves out. The kids aren't going to be feeling this. The kids are like, everybody that showed up when Burrow and Chase showed up is like 16 years old. And they're like, no clue what you mean. Who's bad Leroy Brown? We're going down a bad path. We got to get the kids. Okay. You got to recruit the kids to a good nickname too. They're the ones that set all the trends. That's why when all these fashion, we're talking about any of these stores out here, they're selling clothes. What do? They study the habits of high school kids because they know that's where everyone's going to be eventually. So we got to focus on the kids. What will the kids like? I don't think this plays for them.
William here is a volume shooter, so he's going to throw out a few. Tell me if any of these do anything for you. The Brown Foreman, the Burrow Bookends, Browntown, Brown Family Security, or the Islands of Brown. Maybe Browntown.
Maybe Browntown, but I think there's some ugly connotations there.
I don't even
Browntown. Like it's just I just think of toilet. I go to the bathroom.
Right.
Going to Browntown.
Too close to like Browntown. I would just think Cleveland, because of
also, that's the problem here. Another problem here. You don't want to get confused with the Cleveland thing. All right. Do we have any more?
Here's one that I like. The last one that I think is decent. Maybe a run for Brownsers. This is from Matthew. The Mash Browns. Protecting the hash, turning the DTs to mash. Mash Browns. How do you feel on it?
I think I love it. I think I love Mash Browns. Yeah, that's unbelievable. Hard. Mash Browns versus Brownsers versus Brown County right now is a good run passer boot on how we like. I feel like that's a strong top three where we're at right now. I like that.
Yeah, you throw in Brownstones and Brown Bears. Like we've got some real options here now. Brown County seemed like an easy favorite, but no, we got some real competition now.
I think I might be kicking my own Brown Bears out now. And after our photo shoot that could potentially go very awry, I guess. You kind of talk
Mash Brown's photo shoot is going to be a lot easier.
Waffle House. Let's go. Yeah. Let's go to the Covington Waffle House with those two big boys and put down like 3 double hashes, smothered, covered, diced right in front of them. Both of them, just have them eat. Now that's a photo shoot we all can get behind.
Yeah, 100%. That one will be
no bears involved, no risk.
So if we still have any other nicknames, so the current champ, we're going to give it to Mash Browns for the time being. Maybe Brownsers can recover its title eventually. So if you have any other ideas for the Brown Duo nickname, it's a long summer before we start playing real games. So you can send your suggestions to the growlerpodcast@gmail.com. Do you want to push baptism ideas for super fans? Maybe we kick that a week.
Keep sending them. Keep sending them in. If you have ideas for how a new bandwagon or new on Bengals fan should be baptized to being a Bengals fan, which is brought up by the Bills Mafia doing you got to go through a table to be a true new Bills fan. Keep sending them to us to the email to the growlerpodcast@gmail.com. Send them there. And we'll get to them once we get through all this draft coverage, and we'll keep diving into that. We'll have a good one for that by the time we get into the middle of the summer for sure.
Some strong suggestions on that front as well. Also, we've got some urinal takes. People are still chiming in about the urinals. Maybe we'll get Sztanyo's opinion on that one week here.
Yeah,
we've got a lot of pros and Not as many cons. You're still on the urinal island, but there's a few more people with you than there were before.
Thank you for those that are behind me. I feel you. Thank you.
So we've got a live show coming up Tuesday. If you want to see me at a live show at for stand-up comedy, see me tell some jokes, I will be at the Thoroughbred Theater in Kentucky this Friday, April 26th. So we can talk about the NFL draft in person after the show. And I will be in May in Columbus, Ohio, May 9th through 11th, and then the Des Moines, Iowa Funny Bone later that month. And I'm coming to Evansville, Asheville, North Carolina, and Charleston in June. So you can come out to those shows. And who knows what I'll probably be talking about. Honestly, I'm working on a joke now about Rudy and youth sports coaches, but I'll get into that a different week. I've got a special soft spot in my heart for the NFL draft, just because my first network television joke was about the NFL draft. Now that, and it's going to date my comedy career a little bit, show some bona fides, but it was when Michael Sam got drafted. Obviously, a big deal. I think that was 10 years ago, right? 2014 draft.
Boy, yeah. Wow.
So there was a lot of discussion about that. And so my bit from that ended up on being a big chunk of my first network TV appearance on the late night show Laughs on Fox. Shout out to that. Ran for 3 seasons at, I think, opposite of SNL. And my joke about Michael Sam that got me on there was just that there were so many people that were the discourse among that. You got all the bros that were really riled up about that. My favorite, there were 2. There was one guy that was like, we can't have a gay player on our team because then I'd be worried about the best player on my favorite team getting assaulted in the showers. And it's like, first of all, locker rooms are 99% straight players, right? And if you have one gay player who can just overpower everybody else, that guy is your best player.
Yeah.
That guy's going to win you some titles. You throw him on your defense, you're going to get the player of the year right there.
No question.
And then my second favorite of that group was some guy that's like, he was so riled up about it. He's like, my dad didn't fight in Vietnam so queers could play in the NFL. And that is factually correct. That is not what Vietnam was about at all. If you watch a documentary, you'll see it had very little to do with football at all. So
even the protests that were happening about bringing people back from Vietnam had never mentioned any of that stuff.
Nope, had nothing to do with the gridiron at all. And I do have that joke. I've got a full version of that joke on my album. So if you want to hear that, you can get it on Spotify or Amazon Music, Apple Music, whatever. It's been playing on Sirius XM a lot this week. So if you're an SXM subscriber, you can hear it there too.
Tough time slot for Laughs on Fox.
That's probably why it went 3 seasons.
Opposite right? SNL, only been around since 1975 with just filled the most famous, funny people ever. But actually pretty impressive. They grinded out 3 years, actually.
Yeah, and now when I get introduced at shows, sometimes the host will do your credits and he'll be like, hey, you can hear this guy on Sirius XM or he's got this dry bar special. And sometimes they still pull out the Fox credit. You may have seen him on Fox. Probably not. Probably not unless you
probably not. You were probably, watching Tina Fey do an impression of Sarah Palin or something. But I don't know.
I got to start working the growler into my intros. Have the host do that. Plug the podcast right up top.
Plug the pod. Well, I think there's a chance we might get a few minutes of your act maybe at the live show on Tuesday. Can I get you into that? Can I persuade you into something like that? Just a few minutes?
We can certainly
your best football material.
I don't know that it would be the greatest environment for stand-up comedy when everyone's rowdy and having a good time. Like, all right, everyone politely sit down and now listen to some stand-up. But we could they're
gonna listen to us. Hey, when we start
true.
talking, they're going to be listening. I know that much. I mean, it'll be a rowdy environment, but they're going to want to hear what Mike Potts has to say at least. Maybe
we'll have some jokes. Maybe it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be a fun time. We'll have some fun, and we'll do some jokes out there. We'll make it fun for everybody.
Let's wrap with some dad life here to get us to take us home.
We got a great email from Lisa in Jacksonville about this. She loved the girl dad talk that we had a couple weeks ago and talked about how much that meant to her growing up with a girl dad who was engaged, like we talked about being, and how much that meant for her. That's how she became a Bengals fan. And now she talked also about how she's kind of sharing her Bengal fandom with her son, who I think is 6 and starting to get into it. So here is her boy mom Bengals fan question to you, girl dad Bengals fans / reporters. Have your girls picked up on the love of the sport? If so, when did they really get into it? And what are memorable ways you've shared your love of the game with them? Are your kids sports fans at all?
Yes, like they're working on it. Like I talked about why I've loved doing T-ball so much, which I've talked about a bunch, is that that's what my oldest has been most into. Of any sport that we've tried, she has been most into that. I had them into football. And I talked about this last year. It was essentially a new product that came out that was sent to me that was how to teach your kids football. And it was like a week-long book and activity, I don't know, collection, almost like games. And it worked. Like my youngest was doing touchdown dances, and we were out there. They had a route. They were out there running hitches and goes and throwing the ball, and like all it was cool. Like they understood it helped them understand the rules of the game, and it was great. So I loved it, and that was the first time they really got into football. But I've taken them down to camp a couple times, and that's really fun. I told a story about how my youngest didn't really understand what was going on. And I said, well, what they were doing, where they shoot the ball, the jugs gun to the punt returners. And I was like, all right, so if they catch it, that's awesome. So, cheer, watch that, watch them catch it when it goes way high up in the air, and it goes way high up in the air. Of course, everyone at camp is like, that's not really exciting when they catch it. They always catch it. But my 4-year-old was like, I've never seen them catch it before, and just screams out, he caught it at the top of her lungs. Like when he catches the first one, and everybody just starts dying laughing. Of course, it was sitting over there in the stands. And so, no, they've really been into going down to camp. They like going down there every year. I think we're going to do a preseason game probably this year. I always recommend, if you want to take your kids to games, if they're younger, especially, and it's a little intense on like real games, preseason games are awesome for kids to go to. There's none of the intensity of the regular season. They get to get down closer. And there's more interaction happening with players, and they can see more of their faces and stuff. So highly recommend, if you want to take kids that are younger to a game, take them to a preseason game.
That's a great idea, because my kids, like the Bengals games, are kind of the only sports they get exposed to. I make them go to a Xavier basketball game with me every year, just as a season ticket holder there. And that's a little bit more accessible because it's indoors. It's a little bit calmer than, a raucous Bengals game would be. But in my household, having 3 daughters, our big screen TV that I bought for NFL games and to watch sports on was quickly been overtaken by the Blueys and the YouTubes and that stuff. So all my games I'm watching on like a smaller screen, except for the Bengals. Because my wife started getting into the Bengals, became a huge Bengals fan. She's on the Bengals Reddit every day, which I didn't even know was a thing. That's like a next level hardcore. So because we're both united on that front, we actually get to have the games on the big screen. So the kids are forced to actually sit and watch something else for a few hours. And that has got them a little bit more into the Bengals. They're a little bit scared of their mom sometimes when she screams at the TV or, yells an expletive or two at an official. But that is also, the Super Bowl run helped a lot too, because then the schools embraced it. It's like, hey, wear your Bengals stuff to school. Whichever class goes the most Bengali here is going to get a free pizza day or something like that. They did a lot of those things. So that getting the gear is part of that fun playoff run. In the next season too, going to the AFC Championship game, the schools were really behind it. So that helped too. And that's kind of, we're working our way now towards that. I would love to get them on board with all my sports passions, but I'll take it for the Bengals right now.
How many people in your house were woken up by the end of the Knicks game the other night?
0, because our bedtimes are so bad. They were all still awake.
Wow.
We are very bad at bedtimes, but that was hard because I was trying to read a book to my 4-year-old for her bedtime routine, where I've got like the Knicks game up on my phone, just on the shelf behind her, so she can't see. So I'm reading the book, looking at the score, reading the book, watching the game, reading the book, watching the game. And then, I went pretty crazy after that, but that was an awesome game. And who knows, maybe we'll have some NBA playoffs on TV at BetMGM on Tuesday. I don't know who
talked to Mo Egger about that yesterday, and he said he's going to be down there because he was already talking to you about watching a Knicks game together. And there's an if necessary game 5 that night. So Mo said he's definitely going to be there. And if necessary, you guys will be having some fun. You can watch Mark and Mo suffer through a Knicks game together. And I'm actually really curious what that looks like, especially if it is a high intensity game 5 in the if necessary realm. That could actually be the entertainment that we need. Forget Mike Potts and everything. We'll just watch you guys sweat.
Fun subplot watching us eliminate the 76ers.
All right, one more quick reminder, post-draft special at BetMGM Sportsbook and Nation Kitchen and Bar at the Banks, Tuesday, April 30th, 7 p.m. Bengals college scouting director Mike Potts will be there. And in the past, when we've done these, other scouts have come and hung out and hopped on the mic and offered some opinions of guys that they specifically scouted. We'll go deep into how the draft broke down, talk about the picks, all the background. They spend a year doing background on these guys. They've got so much information. It's always great to hear the process. I love it. One of my favorite things. It eventually will be up, of course, as a regular podcast. But if you want to, we want you to come down and again support the program, support BetMGM and Kit and Nations, and it'd be great to have you down there. So it's going to be a great party and a ton of fun, and you might win a raffle. So make sure you send in your guesses on the Bengals first round pick to us. All right, thanks everybody for listening. Appreciate it. Enjoy draft weekend. We will talk to you Thursday night, Jay and I, with our first of 3 walkouts before we come back next week. So we'll talk to you later. Have a good one, everybody.